Hi, I'm Ted Nelson, here to say too little about huge topics, parallel media and parallel subjects. First, what about other media, audio and video? I've been talking as if parallel documents are all about text. Excuse me, I didn't think I needed to mention that of course you can include in parallel documents pictures, audio and video, even snippets of PDFs. Let's just assume that. Here's a user facing a media-filled Xanadu. It has pictures, movies, audio. It plays audio, but text is at the beginning, the end, and in between, the ever-present lubricant and stuffing. Okay, so this page connects to other pages. Here's a movie as released to the public, and here's the famous director's cut, which few directors get to make. A visualization showing the scenes in the film as distributed, and the scenes in the director's cut that were out of the film as released. So these media mean more work on the interface side, but not in the main structures underneath. Not in the main structures underneath EDLs and Xanalinks. I should mention that EDL-based movie making on the net was started by the Mozilla Foundation with a system called Popcorn. They abandoned it, but development of Popcorn is being carried on at the Internet Archive by Tracy Jackwith. You'll be able to edit videos from all over into an EDL and then distribute it. Oops, that's what the trans copyright license is supposed to be about. Unfortunately, they're not providing a path back, as in the Xanadu model, but maybe I can persuade Tracy later on. So connected documents are for both hypertext and hypermedia. I don't care, I coined both those words. But I'm concentrating on text. Text is more fluid and supple. It's very hard to get right. It has to introduce and comment on everything else, and it has to fill in all the cracks. Okay, now. Parallel subjects. Some subjects are especially suited to parallelism. Consider history. History is intrinsically parallel. History is intrinsically parallel. Consider how different pages can be different narratives, connected by shared events or causation. These can be countries or individuals. The structure is the same. Here's a great example of parallel history. Great example of parallel history. City of Nets by Otto Friedrich. This is a great Hollywood history book with anecdotes taken from dozens of biographies and other histories of the 1930s through the 1950s. When I read many of the anecdotes, I wished I could jump to the original, but you just have to rely on the summaries by Otto Friedrich, since he has no right to copy those originals in detail. So it's really a connected, parallel, transcluded text with the connections cut. Transclusion is the way to go. Looking for other examples of parallel history, I had to ask which of my own books was most suited to parallelism. Of my 10 books, one especially needed parallelism. Here's my parallel autobiography. Possiplex, a parallel history of my life where I had to put many different stories into sequence. So I used typography to mimic parallelism. I did pull out separate parallel narratives with little sections with different typography, such as defining moments, creative control. So those separate narratives are interspersed all in one forced sequence. If I could have told the separate stories, I was mimicking parallel documents. If I could have told the separate stories of my family members and the main tale of how I got my massive egotism, ambition, and hubris, and believed I could found a worldwide personal computing industry and worldwide hypertext, and the adventures afterwards, many of them grim, trying to tell everybody for years too soon. And there were so many side anecdotes I wish I could have left in, but I had to power along in one main narrative. Those anecdotes would have been completely distracting, but on the side they would have been fine. The actual manuscript was at least 3 times this size. I spent most of the time cutting, whereas in parallel hypertext you can leave much more in. Okay, what's the skeleton of history? Timelines. Timelines. So, for example, if you're writing a history flight, you can include a timeline to show when everything happened, in a unified visualization. Or you can create an independent timeline that unifies other documents. Time is parallel to all events. Timeline pages can be parallel to all writings about events. Reconciling timelines is a fundamental problem, a fundamental task of historians. Other kinds of parallelism. Parallelism in film. Linda Aronson has a very nice essay on the net called 6 Types of Parallel Narratives. She means in film. Parallelism in plays. One of my favorite examples is the play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard, which is happening in parallel with the action in Shakespeare's tragedy Hamlet. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, the hero discovers that In Shakespeare's Hamlet, the hero Hamlet discovers that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern have been instructed to have him executed. He changes the document to have them killed instead. That's in the Shakespeare tragedy. The Stoppard comedy tells the same story from the point of view of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. The two plays have a few scenes in common, transcluded. Other fiction. Footnote fiction, especially Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov, a gorgeous poem by the fictitious poet John Shade, with a lot of idiotic comments by the fictitious academic Charles Kinbote. The novel consists of the poem and the footnotes in parallel. Another story told in footnotes is Ad Parnassum by Nancy Weber. Parallel novel. A great example is the parallel between Gone with the Wind and a derivative novel called The Wind Done Gone from the slave's perspective. Parallel versions. Often technical documents have to have many different versions. For example, IBM traditionally had several documents about the same system, beginning with executive summary, then I think concepts and facilities, and becoming more complex at different levels, all intrinsically linked in parallel. Contracts, this is a biggie. Contracts go through multiple versions that people keep trying to slip in changes. Just one changed word or even a comma can screw you if you miss it. I won't even talk about parallelism for accounting and bookkeeping. The potential for annotation and forensic investigation, that's a natural. I'll stop there. This has been a rushed discussion of parallel media and parallel documents. Thank you.